Game 8 has taken place in 2018. This is part of the U.S. Washington State Championship, round 4. I'm white playing a black player, a junior player. His last name, I'll just say, is VJ. It's a longer name, but it's Indian, so I'll make it shorter. Let's start by saying that a lot of times you get into games that are unclear. The position is not clear and it's difficult to know how to proceed. This is one of those games. So pay attention here. Let's go through this game to see, how we continue to try to improve our position. So I'm white and I start the game, well, like pretty much all games, e4, and he plays the French defense. As you well know, I'm going to play a non-standard opening. I'm not going to play d4, which is exactly what he's expecting. So I play the King's Indian attack, d3, right? And he plays in French style, d5. I do not want to break open the center. I want to keep that light squared bishop on c8 as inactive as I can, right? That's part of the reason that you don't want to take. So I just play knight b, d2, or just knight d2. There's no other knight, so knight d2. And this is normal development. Knight f6, knight gf3. He plays c5. Good idea. Grabbing the center, preparing knight c6. All good. He's got a little bit of an issue with his light squared bishop, but again, this is too early to worry about that. So everything is normal. I play standard KIA, right? G3, put my bishop on G2. He plays his knight out, bishop G2. Now here is I wasn't sure what he was going to do here. I mean, he can just play bishop e7 or b6. There's different moves he could play here. Even h6, I guess, is a move. But he just plays bishop e7. Smart. I castle. I think he should castle here too, but he doesn't. He plays on an active square. He tries to put his queen on c7. Now that's, I think, a little weird. Again, it's not awful, but yeah, why would you want to put a queen on this possible diagonal later on? It's just, I don't know. Not a lot of reason to do it. I think just castle, right? Castle, I play rook e1, you play rook e8, you just slowly, build out your pieces. But queen c7 is inaccurate, but not the end of the world. I play rook e1. I think that's a good move. I could take as well, open up the position, but I just want to continue in the spirit of development here, right? Focus on development as an amateur player. It's really important. Okay, so he plays b6. Again, he's deferring castling, so we're not sure what he's going to do here. Now I'm thinking to myself, maybe he's going to castle long. Might be an option. I don't know yet. Here I thought quite a bit. Now the idea of the King's Indian attack is you want to be able to play a move like e5. It's really important to do that because that's how you really want to gain space. You want to open this diagonal for the bishop and just start, occupying the center and grabbing pieces. But I was rusty here. I hadn't played in a while. It was my first tournament in probably 10 years, actually. So I was not as sharp as I should have been. And I play the dubious b3. Again, getting my bishop out makes sense, but now I'm really starting to give him the advantage. He should just play like d4 here, right? Just pound the center, keep it locked up, and grabbing space here and making things awkward for me. I think that's a good move for sure. I can play a4, and it's probably just equal, but anyway, the game continues. So he finally decides that he's not going to. Sorry, I shouldn't say finally. He's just not going to castle. So he plays bishop b7, leaving me in suspense about what he's going to do, and I'm not really sure. So I got to justify my b3 move. I put my bishop on b2, and for the most part, castling is complete. I have my pieces developed, so does he. The question now is, what's he going to do? And sure enough, he castles long. There are not too many games I have seen in the King's Indian attack at the master level where black gets to castle kingside. So that's kind of rare. So it's clear to me what's going to happen anyway. First off, I'm going to have to attack on this side of the board, the king side, right? This is where all the action is taking place over here. He is going to have to attack more or less on the queen side, doing his thing on that side. It's pretty obvious. It's not going to be a battle for the center so much as it is on the flank. So that kind of reveals itself right there. And so anyway, that's that. Okay, so now uh, I play Queen E2. It's a mature move, I think. It's hard to know what to play here, though, to be perfectly honest. Um, it's one of these positions where neither side is doing anything too interesting. So there are a lot of options, right? I could just open the middle. E takes d5, which is sort of okay because it justifies this rook being here, right, on the e file. An open rook file is probably a good thing, and I may have a slight advantage. Maybe it's just equal. Um, and then maybe I can play slow moves like c3 and try to open up the center. I can play even d4 right away and create some issues for him. But I just say, you know what, Queen E2, let's get the rooks connected on the back rank, and maybe they can move over to a better square, and let's see what happens. So now he plays a strange one. He plays King B8. I don't know what that move is about. I am really not sure. Is he, leaving it so another piece can occupy it? But what? I'm not sure. I think it's just kind of a prophylactic move. But again, I don't like the idea of even having a bishop having the possibility of going here later on. So it's kind of scary to see that situation. So now I should probably play a move like a4. Just gain space. That's where I'm going, right? I'm gonna start marching up the board. But I do another passive move, and this is the bane of amateur players. Uh, being too passive. I play rook AC1. Again, giving him a little bit more momentum than he needs. I mean, I'm already a little better, but now I think it's just dead equal after this move. And I think the idea is I want to be able to meet d4 with c3 perhaps. I think that's what I was thinking. Or I can play c4 immediately and a3 and b4. I'm not really sure. And I am sort of indirectly lining up with his queen. So again, I don't want to be unnecessarily harsh about it, but I think a4 makes a lot of sense. All right, so now black plays rook h g8, and the only reason I can think of him doing that is he wants to play g5, right? That makes why he would do that. I would just play maybe h5 now, or even at some point just play h5. Maybe then bring this rook over and then play g5. Maybe that makes a little more sense because that's where it's going to happen anyway. I don't know, but nope, he likes the rook hg8, and I kind of know what's coming. So now I make another curious one. I put the rook on rook e to d1, thinking that things are going to open up on the e file, and again, I don't think this makes any sense. Again, a4 is in the typical spirit of the position. I'm shuffling pieces here because I think I'm just afraid of overcommitting, which I've said to you in other videos, right? You don't want to overcommit a break or a push unless you really think it's good for you. But I think this is the case where, yeah, I needed to play a4 is not too overcommitted. I think I was worried if I play a4, then he gets to play like knight b4, but even that's not. I can always play c3, so it's not like it's that big a deal. Actually, he can't even do that because I have. If he does that, I have bishop e5 winning. Yeah, bishop e5. I just saw this here. Bishop d6. Bishop takes d6. Queen takes d6 and then e5, and then I'm winning a piece. So that would be a disaster if he did that. But again, I don't know. I think a4 just still makes sense. Um, but anyway, I take the pawn. That's my move after g5. Sorry, he's trying to push on the g file. So then I decide it's time to take, and this is a good move I think because I want to start opening things up, getting my knight to e5 maybe, and now I'm gonna have to bring my rook back probably to the e file. That's what it looks like. So it's kind of awkward. And my queen is not exactly well placed. I mean, where's it gonna go here? Very few squares. So after takes, he just takes with the knight. I thought he might take with the e takes d, but it makes some sense. He wants to get some scope in the game and get his pieces active. He's got good squares here to kind of watch on and so on, so not bad. Here I thought for a long time I wasn't sure what to play because this whole game is like one big cloud. It's very hard to understand like what I should be playing. The computer here, just in case you're wondering, likes c4, which is a very advanced move, frankly, so I'm not going to go into it. Knight bd4, knight e5, it's very complicated, right? And something I'm not going to pretend is something that I would ever see normally, especially with this a pawn hanging, which you can't take. It's a long story, but the computer likes c4. So I play knight c4. I figure it's a good place for a knight keeping the e5 square under observation. I still have flexibility in where to go, and things look okay. So he continues his attack here. He plays g4, and the only place I can really go that's active is the right move is knight fe5. Putting my knight in the center, threatening technically knight takes f7, also opening up my bishop diagonal. This is all reasonable stuff here, although I think that Black has got a little bit of a better game here, though. My pieces again are kind of jumbled up, and I think with his pawn on g4 and his h5, h4 ideas, I think he's got something going for himself, or even f5, f4 for all I know. He's got a lot of good ideas happening. Okay. After knight fe5, good move for him. Good move for him here was probably like knight d4, threatening the queen and causing some problems. But he plays a less active move. He plays bishop g5. I was worried about this move for some reason. The computer, of course, is not. I should probably just take. This is the smartest idea here. Take queen takes or something, and I can, rook b1 or rook a1, something like that. Get out of the way. And I have this nice pin on his queen, through that. But I don't. I figured, okay, let me move the rook, get it out of the way. Now, what's wrong with this move to b1? And I illustrate here. See how this position begs the question about square control. Remember I told you how each position has a story to tell? Look at the c3 square, how weak it is. I can't land there right now, but it's just noteworthy to say, ooh, this is a problem. And right now he has a winning move right here in this position here. Early as move 15, move 17. I did not even see. Let's pause the video and see if you can find it. Well, the move here is knight to d4. And you're probably going to wonder, well, why is that winning? Well, it's hitting the c2 pawn. It's hitting the queen. If I move the queen, like queen f1, he can take the c2 pawn, but he's got an even better move. He's got like f6. And this is a complicated variation, I'm not going to lie, right? And I can take on g4. It's very computer-esque here, h5. Look at all this initiative he's getting here, though. That's the problem. Knight back to e3. This is actually a very strong computer move, again, all computer-based. Knight f4. I mean, crazy stuff that is very hard. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth, but suffice to say he gets a lot of activity here, and I'm in a lot of trouble, and I'm lost, in fact. So after after knight d4, if I just took the bishop, just do that. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, he takes, and same problem. Look at that c3 square. And no matter what I do, I'm in trouble. If I play queen f1, he still has knight c3. He's going to win the exchange. And that's pretty devastating. And this d4 pawn is also a house. It's very, very strong. So that's a big problem. Okay, well, rook b1 was played, but he didn't see this. He played a reasonable. We play h5. He's like, I'm going to continue to attack here and go after this guy. So I just played a move I felt was natural. In fact, it's a good move, but I just didn't know how good it was prior. Knight takes c6, and it looks like that variation I showed you earlier. He takes on c6, but now I have a much freer game. My pieces now can have some elbow room here, and I play knight e5, hitting f7, hitting the queen, and I have this really nice diagonal all of a sudden. That looks okay for me, and the king is sort of in there. I can maybe push pawns and start breaking up the center a little bit, so it looks pretty good. So he plays queen e8, which is, I don't think, a bad idea. Queen c7 is pretty good as well, but queen e8 is reasonable. And here I play an active move, a d4 move here to try to break open the center. I think c4 is a little better now looking at it, even though he gets to play like knight b4, and I take the bishop he takes, and I have this devastating d4 opening of lines here. I shouldn't say devastating. It's just very strong. It's really, really like a good move. He can play f6 to kick the knight. But then I get in with all these checks, and I have ideas like queen h7 check. And anyway, it gets to be annoying for him. So I'm at least equal here, if not a little better. So I play d4 though. Now he plays f6. He's like, okay, I'm gonna create some havoc for you as well. I play knight to c4. It's a good square. I can go back to d3 as well, but I think c4 is a good move. He takes, which I don't know if that's a great idea or not. I think maybe he should have put his queen back on c6 or something else, some other alternative. Maybe c takes d4 is reasonable, but I prefer a queen move. Queen c6, queen e7, maybe something like that. Even yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure it's as tough as bishop on g5 is just really awkward. Maybe even h4 move wonders starting to push. I guess it hangs a pawn, but is it still okay? Probably not. I can probably just take on d takes c5, and it's probably much better for black. Okay, so c takes d4. I thought about this. Should I take with the rook or the bishop? I think taking with the rook is the most active way to do it. He pushes me with e5, and I accurately play rook to d3. I want to double up. That's my move here. Now he has a move like e4, which looks kind of strange to sack a pawn for some play, but he doesn't play that. He plays queen c6 question mark, gets on the diagonal, and he's got some tricks here if I'm not careful, right? He's got moves like this and then this, so I got to play it, reasonably accurate. So I just double up, rook b d1, and suddenly I'm winning. I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was definitely better, but it looks like he is in deep trouble, especially now that I'm going to win a rook at a minimum. Okay, so he plays good move, queen e6 to try and salvage what he can. Now, I didn't see this at the time. A good move for me is what? What is a good positional move for me? It's bishop a3. It's very hard to find, but I guess the idea is I have a nice post for this at some point. And if he starts playing moves like f5 or bishop c6, I can actually do things like bishop d6 check and then pick up this knight. It's really interesting how that works. So computer move. I didn't see it, of course, but it's still interesting. Instead, I played just knight e3, kind of getting on this knight. I give away a lot of my advantage doing that, unfortunately. This is dubious. Maybe even question mark, because it doesn't really extend my advantage at all. It gives it away. I have only a slight edge now. All right, so bishop takes e3. I take with the pawn, obviously. Now, I'm not sure what he's thinking here. He probably needs to play a move like e4, kind of blunt my diagonal, hit the rook, something like that. But he doesn't. He plays king c7, which to me is, I don't know. I don't know why he did that. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Technically, I can take on d5 here. I didn't, but this is certainly an option. Again, this is all tactics training here. Rook takes d5. Rook takes d5. I have queen c4. Ooh, oops. Hello. That's the other piece on it. And even after queen c6, I can just take on d5. And I'm hitting his queen, hitting his rook. I mean, I'm all over him. I mean, it's just too much. And if he takes, no problem. Let's take back here. And I'm up a full piece. I have the two bishops as well. It's just the end of the game. Nothing else to look at. All right, so queen. I said, you know what? It's a time game. It takes a while. I think he wanted to play king c7 so he could defend the rook if it gets taken. So I just put more pieces on it. I play queen d2. tripling on the file. Um, he had a move here. I think he had knight takes e3, which is very tactical, but he still loses. He still loses. But he decides, you know what? I'm going to try that e4 idea and blunt the uh, the diagonal. That's reasonable. But I find a good move here. Rook d4. There's multiple threats here. Obviously, the simplest one, I'm just going to win this pawn. And after I win this pawn, it's going to be real trouble. And he can't ever move his knight because, again, I have a triple on the file here. This rook is hanging. So he's lost. This is just game over. But he continues on. He's a fighter. He goes back to e7 because he feels, hey, I want to try and protect my rook and keep things going, but then I'm going to win this key pawn. This is too much. I'm hitting the queen as well. It's a very tough move to meet. So he plays back further to c5 to f8. He should have gone to c5, I think, but he plays to f8. I don't really know what else to play here. He can go to g7. He's lost in either case. So he goes to f8. I thought about this a while, and I'm like, I probably could have checked him on c4. But I went right back to d4. Just keep it simple. He could probably play here queen h6, try and win that e3 pawn, but again, it's just hopeless at this point. So he plays knight e7, and then I didn't see I have a mate here, a mate in 3. What is that move? Can you see it? It's actually rook d7. I didn't see that. Rook d7, queen takes d7, king b8, and then I have just mate on b7. Didn't see it though. Happens. Instead, I play another winning line. It's just not mating. Rook takes d8. He takes to the queen and he forgets. Oh, queen c3 check. With the rook hitting the queen. And me hitting that, so it's just about over. He continues to play though. King b8. Junior players like to play on, right? They never give up. So I quickly will go to the end of the game here because there's not much to look at, but you never know, right? The game can always be screwed up. But I take. He takes. I'm just trading down material here. I'm up too much. Bishop takes b7. He takes rook check. I just king up. King there. I take the f6 pawn. He's trying tricks with, knight to, d5. I'm like, all right, queen f7. He plays king up. I have king e2. Right, simple stuff. And he's gonna try and get behind, my pawns, but this is just too much here. Queen e6 check. King c7. I know this is the end coming here. I just take his knight. He's just praying here for a miracle, which is not going to happen. Rook takes h2, king up. He's trying to win another pawn, but then this is it. He resigned here. Bishop e5 is mate. So I think the takeaway in this game here is when you have unclear positions, just try and put your pieces on good squares. Don't force anything. There were a couple opportunities I had. Remember, I could play c4 and some other moves. Computer-based moves that were very complicated, but put your pieces on good squares. And the other thing I would say is make sure that when you do, you don't give any type of advantage to your opponent. Like, for example, when I had my rook to b1 earlier in this game, that knight fork was prevalent. So I should keep my eyes open for that. I should have just played rook a1. Avoid any issues with that. So I hope you enjoyed the game. Thank you for viewing, and I'll see you in the next video.